Hello, I'm Kate with Sallie Tomato, and I think you're going to enjoy Isla, a retro duffel bag design that is sure to become your go-to bag for park excursions, gym workouts, and so much more. This sporty bag was designed by Jamie, Jess's business partner, and the name Isla is inspired by Jamie's daughter. While the duffel interior gives you room for packing lots of items, you also have a slip pocket between the handles and a concealed zipper pocket on the side to keep additional items handy and secure. But please don't let the round shape intimidate you. We've written and illustrated the pattern to take you through each step very easily. The pattern and your supplies can be purchased from our website or request them at your local quill shop, because we'd love for you to shop local whenever you can. Many people who create learn by watching, so we hope this online class will help give you extra confidence making Isla. So open your pattern and let's get started.
The finished size for Isla is 18 inches wide by 9.5 inches high by 9.5 inches deep. Before beginning, take a minute to review the recommended fabrics on the back of your pattern cover. You'll need 1 main fabric and 5 contrast fabrics. I'm using a lightweight denim in a range of colors for the main and the first 4 contrast fabrics. I've chosen a faux leather for the 5th contrast fabric. You'll also need a lining fabric, webbing for the straps, a sew-in foam, and if you'd like, a small piece of fusible interfacing. Next you'll need the hardware, D-rings or triangle rings, swivel hooks, and a slider buckle. I'm also going to add a handmade label and a tassel cap for extra designer touches. You'll need a double slide and a single slide zipper, and if you like the decorative contrast zipper pulls, you'll want to add the donut zipper pulls to your zippers. Have fun selecting the metal finish to complement your fabrics. Our Sallie Tomato hardware and zippers are available in nickel, gold, antique, gunmetal, and rose gold for perfect coordination. And finally, gather a few helpful tools and notions: a rotary cutter or scissors, thread such as sulky 40-weight poly deco, which is strong but also looks great for the top stitching, Clover Wonder clips, pins, chalk or removable pen, basting spray, basting tape or glue, paper tape, stiletto, Teflon foot, a zipper foot or narrow foot. It's time to cut out all the pieces needed following your paper pattern. Pattern piece D is printed in 2 halves, so be sure to tile them together before cutting out the fabric pieces. And refer to the cutting layout in your pattern. It's a helpful guide for efficiently using your fabrics. You may also find it helpful to label your pieces as you cut them by marking the name of each piece on the wrong side with a removable pen or a piece of chalk. They'll be easy to identify as you assemble your project. Well, that is a lot of cutting, but you're almost ready to begin sewing. If you wish to add interfacing, that needs to be fused onto the coordinating lining pieces. I'm only interfacing piece S. Then we need to mark the right side of both main fabric pieces A. Refer to your pattern for the measurements and draw horizontal lines parallel with the top long edge. With right sides together, place the bottom edge of one contrast piece C along the top marked line. If you'd like to change up the color order of the pieces, go right ahead and have fun. Pin or tape baste the piece in place and we're ready to head to the sewing machine. Be sure to follow your pattern for the specific stitch lengths and seam allowances. Sew piece C to piece A. Now press the piece C down, covering the seam allowance. If your iron isn't handy, a seam ruler works really well for flattening that seam. And now top stitch through all the layers, again referring to your pattern for top stitch length and allowance. Place the bottom edge of the second piece C along the next marked line on piece A, right sides together. Sew piece C in place and then press piece C down, again covering the seam allowance. and then top stitch through all the layers. Repeat this process to attach the remaining contrast pieces, and after top stitching the last piece C, also based across the bottom edge if you'd like, assemble the second main piece A following the same steps. Now we're ready to prepare and attach the exterior slip pocket, piece H. Refer to your pattern for the measurements and mark a line below the top long edge, then fold over the edge of piece H and use sewing clips to hold the hem in place. Now you're going to top stitch, removing the sewing clips as you sew. With right sides up, center the piece H over one piece A, aligning the bottom raw edges. Use basting tape to hold piece H in place. Top stitch the sides and bottom edge of piece H, referring to your pattern for the allowances. With right sides together, align and clip one long edge of the contrast exterior base piece G along the bottom edge of one piece A. Then sew the seam. Fold the seam allowances toward piece G and top stitch, securing all the layers. With wrong sides together, center the assembled duffel exterior over foam piece R, aligning all edges. Use basting spray or sewing clips to hold the layers together for sewing. I do find that using just a little spray helps hold the large layers in place, but it is completely optional. Baste all four sides together. A Teflon foot or a walking foot may help for sewing laminated cotton, waxed canvas, cork, and the faux leather fabrics. Trim the excess foam from the seam allowance, cutting close to the stitches but not into them, and you'll do a much neater job than I'm doing right now. Now on to attaching the duffel handles. With right side up, center each piece O handle over the assembled exterior, following the measurements in your pattern. Basting tape is really helpful holding piece O in place, especially over the faux leather, but I'm also adding pins where I can pin into the denim fabric. Then top stitch one long side of piece O up to the seamed edge of the middle piece C. Pivot and top stitch across piece O, pivot again, and then continue along the opposite edge. Double check that you pivot at the correct piece C. I should have top stitched one section further. My mistake, so follow your pattern. If possible, try to roll the duffel exterior as you top stitch the handle in place. I find that pushing the handle webbing ever so slightly under the presser foot helps. This will give the duffel its classic barrel shape. And if desired, top stitch an X inside the box just below the pivot stitching for reinforcement, and repeat the top stitching for the second piece O handle. Now is a great time to add the decorative zipper pulls if you'd like the extra design feature. With wrong sides together, thread one contrast zipper pull through the opening in each metal zipper pull. Glue or tape baste the layers together, aligning the curved ends. Top stitch the curved edges and just below the zipper pull using a zipper or narrow foot for easy and accurate top stitching near that metal zipper pull. Alright, let's finish the zipper. With right sides together, sandwich each end of the double slide zipper between a contrast and a lining zipper tab. The right side of the main zipper tab will be against the right side of the zipper, and the right side of the lining zipper tab will be against the wrong side of the zipper. Sew the layers together at the ends of the zipper. I'm going to fold and press each zipper tab away from the zipper so the tabs are wrong sides together right here at the machine. Now top stitch along the tab seam and repeat for the opposite zipper end. Now with right sides together, center the top zipper along the top edge of the exterior panel and pin or clip the edges together. And this is important. Make sure you check that your piece O handles are attached in the proper spots. Mine obviously are not, so follow your pattern, double check this spot. Baste along the edge using a zipper or narrow foot, starting and stopping 3/4 inch in from the raw ends of the exterior. Stopping the stitching before the ends of the fabric is really important for the assembly of the bag in later steps. Make sure the handles are staying out of the way. With right sides together, align the top edge of one lining piece K along the top edge of the exterior, sandwiching the zipper between the layers. Sew together. Again, remember that you're starting and stopping 3/4 inch in from the raw ends of the exterior. Trim the piece B zipper tabs even with the rest of the duffel if needed. Then press piece K and the exterior away from the zipper. Then you're going to top stitch on the right side of the exterior, starting and stopping again 3/4 inch from the raw ends. Repeat the same process to attach the opposite edge of the top zipper to the opposite top edge of the exterior panel and the remaining piece K, creating a tube. You might find flipping the pieces over so you can see the piece K and where the zipper pulls are when you're sewing. Then turn the duffel tube right side out. It's helpful to unzip the top zipper to top stitch the opposite side after attaching it. Take your time so you don't catch the sections of lining while sewing. The next step is to slide one D-ring over one end of each piece Q strap connector so it's in the center. Fold each piece Q in half, aligning the raw ends. Hold the ends together with sewing clips. Then center the raw ends of one piece Q over each main fabric zipper tab with the D-rings toward the zipper and aligning the raw edges. Be sure to move the lining zipper tabs out of the way. You don't want to stitch into them. Baste each piece Q in place, checking that the lining zipper tabs are not caught in the stitches. Now gather pieces E, F, M, and S for the exterior side zipper pocket. With right sides together, center piece S, the zipper pocket facing over the contrast piece F, the zipper pocket bottom, aligning top edges. Sew together along the indented section as detailed in your pattern. When using quilt cotton or linen, reduce your stitch length to 2 millimeters or shorter for a secure seam, especially at those corners. Snip into the indented corners of the seam allowance, being careful not to cut through the stitches. Then turn and press so that piece S and piece F are wrong sides together. Now you're going to place the zipper so the closed zipper pull is on the left if you are right-handed, or on the right if you are left-handed. Then with right sides up, center the piece F over a single pull zipper, aligning the top edges. Hold the zipper in place with basting tape or paper tape. Top stitch piece F along the indented seam and then remove the paper tape, which tears away really easily. Fold piece F away from the long seam. Position the right side of the piece M zipper pocket front lining against the wrong side of the zipper, aligning the long edges, and sew together. Press the piece F and piece M down with wrong sides together. Press under the straight edge of piece E zipper pocket top, referring to the fold line on the paper pattern. With right side up, center piece E over piece F, covering the right side of the zipper. If you'd like, use the paper pattern of piece D exterior side to ensure that the pocket top completes the circular side panel. Fold piece E down, keeping the straight edge in place. Turn the unit over and sew along the straight edge of the zipper tape. Refold piece E up. With right sides up, center the zipper pocket unit over one piece end lining side aligning outer curved edges, and top stitch across piece E above the fold. Then fold piece F up, leaving the lining pieces together, and top stitch along the curved edge of the smaller piece M. Press the piece F down over the lining with right sides up. Center the assembled zipper pocket side over one foam piece D side, aligning all the edges. Clip or pin the layers together, and also layer and clip the contrast piece D and foam piece D. Baste the outer curved edges, and you'll also baste around piece D as well. Trim the excess foam close to the stitching without cutting into the stitches. This next step is completely optional, but it really adds a designer touch. Install a handmade label centered against the right side of the zipper pocket side above the top stitching, following the manufacturer's instructions. You can easily view a video tutorial on our YouTube channel for details on how to install this hardware. The area above the zipper pocket is also the perfect spot for embroidering a monogram or a favorite saying. Fold the duffel exterior in half at the zipper tab to find and mark the center top and bottom of the exterior piece. I marked the wrong sides also, just so that they're visible. Fold each exterior side panel in half to mark the center top and bottom. Turn the exterior wrong side out. You may find it helpful to pin the lining pieces K out of the way. With right sides together, match the top and bottom center marks of one side panel on each end of the duffel exterior, aligning the raw edges. Don't be afraid to snip into the edges to help relax the fabric of the front, back, and base areas, the barrel of the unit. Take tiny clips, about 1/8 inch, into the duffel edges. Be sure to use lots of sewing clips to hold the layers together. You might find it helpful to pin or clip standing up, with the duffel standing vertical on the table in front of you. And I'm going to pin and sew one side at a time. Sew around the side panel and take your time, checking that you're not sewing through any of the lining fabric. It's easiest to sew this step with the circular side panels against the bed of the sewing machine. And for part of the seam, I have the duffel vertical to make the sewing just a little easier. Open the zipper and unpin the lining pieces K. The lining is already on the outside, so with right sides together, align and pin the long edges of the lining base piece L to the long edges of pieces K. Sew together along both long edges of piece L, creating a tube of the lining. Leave an opening in one of the seams for turning. The wider seam allowance for the lining helps that lining fit neatly inside your duffel bag. Now mark the center top and bottom of both ends of the duffel lining and each lining piece end side panels, or you can use the fold lines in the piece's end. With right sides together, match top and bottom center marks of one piece end on each end of the duffel lining, aligning the raw edges. Sew around each piece end, being careful not to sew through any of the duffel exterior. Again, it is a little easier to sew with piece end on the bed of the sewing machine. Now turn close to the stitching to reduce the bulk, but do not cut into the stitching or the fabric at the opening. Turn the duffel bag right side out through the unsewn opening in the lining. Fold in along the unsewn opening. I've got the duffel turned into the lining, so right now I'm going to stitch the opening shut, but it is easy to stitch after the duffel is turned right side out. Top stitch along the aligned folds to close the turning opening. Finish turning the duffel right side out and then smooth the lining to the inside. If desired, you can top stitch along the top row of stitching at each handle through all the layers to hold the lining closer to the exterior bag. Yay, we're on the home stretch! Next, we need to finish the handles. Fold each short edge of the piece eye handle wrap to the wrong side. Secure the folds with sewing clips and then top stitch along each fold. With right sides together, fold each piece eye in half, aligning the raw long edges, and sew those long edges forming tubes. Turn each handle wrap right side out. Next, thread one wrap onto one front piece O handle and the second wrap onto one back piece O handle. Join both piece O fronts by placing the short ends tightly together over a scrap of lining fabric, making sure that there's no twist, and then pin or clip the layers in place. Zigzag stitch over the matched piece O ends, making sure the wrap is out of the way. Now the machine that I'm using is a straight stitch machine, so I'm adapting a little bit to zigzag over the raw ends. Now trim the scrap fabric close to the stitching and repeat the process. Then you'll slide the handle wrap to the center with the seam side against the underside of the handle and secure the handle wrap edges with sewing clips. And you'll repeat the same process for the back piece O and the remaining handle wrap. Then top stitch all four sides of each handle wrap through all the layers. And we're ready for the adjustable strap. If you are using nylon webbing, you can melt each end of the strap by lightly touching it with a lighter to prevent the raw ends of the piece P from unraveling. But if you're not comfortable with melting the raw ends or you're using cotton webbing, sew over each raw edge with a wide zigzag stitch multiple times. That will keep it secure. Now thread one end of piece P over the center bar of the slider buckle and fold the end of piece P to the underside. Top stitch the end of piece P strap to itself, and I'm adding a second row of stitching just for security. Next, thread the opposite end of the strap, that's without the slider buckle, through a swivel hook. Thread the end over the center bar of the slider buckle, and to complete the strap, thread the end through the remaining swivel hook. Fold the end of the strap down to the underside, and again top stitch the end of the strap to itself. After clipping on the strap, there might be one last step. It's optional, and it only takes a few minutes, and that's making a tassel for your Isla Duffle bag. Be sure to visit our YouTube channel for a detailed video tutorial on how to make a tassel using the tassel cap hardware. Attach the tassel to one of Isla's zipper pulls or connector rings.
And Isla is ready for your next weekend getaway. We look forward to seeing photos of your adventures with the Isla Duffle. Tag us using hashtag Sallie Tomato and hashtag Isla Duffle Bag. And let us know if you found this tutorial helpful. I'd like to send a big thank you to Jamie for this fun design, and thank you for joining me. See you soon.